Welcome, Vivian Field students. This is an important video on cafeteria procedure. Remember, a Viking always has their shield. Let's start with letter S, shall we? Letter S. Stay with your class. Here comes Betty Sue, Bernadine, Leona, Dolores, and Mabel for lunch. As you can see, they are not staying with their class. They're scattered about. Betty Sue is talking to an imaginary friend. The others are moving from table to table, completely at random. Leona decides to run over and visit Betty Sue with her imaginary friend. As you can see, this is random. No, no, no! Mrs. Featherwinkle does not approve. Let's try that again, shall we? Here comes Betty Sue and the gang, this time walking in a very nice straight line. Calmly taking a seat at their table, they engage in casual conversation about math, science, and band. Mrs. Featherwinkle approves. Much better. Letter H. Hands up to stand up. Here's Betty Sue, Leona, and Mabel having a conversation at the table. Well, the teacher isn't looking. They decide they're going to get up, split up, and meet in the restroom. Leona and Mabel walk one way, while Betty Sue is hiding behind a post. No, no, no! Mrs. Featherwinkle does not approve. Let's try that again, shall we? Here's Betty Sue and her friends talking at the table again. This time, Betty Sue raises her hand to go to the restroom. Remember, if you need to get up in the cafeteria for any reason, you must raise your hand. Mrs. Featherwinkle approves. Much better. Moving on to letter I. Inside voices and sounds. It's lunchtime and the entire gang is here. At first, their conversation is rather quiet, but then it quickly escalates. My favorite color is blue, says Betty Sue. Well, wait a minute. My favorite color is also blue, says Dolores. I don't have a favorite color, yells Myrtle. No, no, no. Mrs. Featherwinkle does not approve. Let's try that again, shall we? This time, Betty Sue and the gang are talking at the table, but much quieter, and they even remind each other to stay quiet during lunchtime. Fantastic job, ladies. Mrs. Featherwinkle approves. Much better. It's time for letter E. Enter and exit with your teacher. Here's the gang. As they exit the cafeteria, rather than staying with their teacher, they run and scatter about. Students are everywhere. No, no, no. Mrs. Featherwinkle does not approve. And now for the correct way. As you can see, the gang enters with their teacher in a nice single file line, and also exits with their teacher in a nice single file line, keeping everything nice and organized. Very well done. Mrs. Featherwinkle approves. Much better. Letter L. Listen to adults. Here, we have a teacher trying to get the attention of one of her students, but the students continue to ignore her and not listen to her directions. No, no, no! Mrs. Featherwinkle does not approve. Let's try that again, shall we? Here we have our students talking at the table. Our teacher comes by to ask them a question. The students listen this time and find out all the teacher wanted was for them to clean up their mess. Mrs. Featherwinkle approves. Much better. That brings us to the last letter of SHIELD, letter D. Dispose of trash and clean your table. Here's the gang again, finishing up their lunch. Unfortunately, they're leaving their trays on the table. Only 2 of them remembered to take their tray to the trash can. This means someone else will have to clean up their mess. No, no, no! Mrs. Featherwinkle does not approve. Let's try that again. This time, our gang brings up the trays, dumps them out, and sets them neatly in stacks. keeping the home of the Vikings clean. Mrs. Featherwinkle approves. Much better. So remember, S, H, I, E, L, and D. A Viking always has their shield. And remember, if you take care of your home, it will take care of you. So best wishes, and see you next time.